up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is the Dharma Time segment. I am, as always, I'm your host, the Dharma Guy, and joined, absolutely necessary here, is the Dope Doctor. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing? I'm live from Telemed Clinics
I'm
today
about to say
in
it looks
Sanford,
different.
Florida.
I see
Yeah, I'm
that.
in Sanford, Florida.
You got a painting behind you. Is that what that is?
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, I don't know what that
Painting?
is, but it just looks like
I
a
don't
bunch
know.
of stuff.
If I wasn't 51 and I could turn my head around, I would look, but I
Nice,
can't.
nice. Well, anyways, welcome everybody. As always, we're here. This is the Dharma Time segment where we try to take things on a much more spiritual note. For those of you
Mhm.
tuning in on watching us live on Facebook.com/WPSN99, we thank you so much. Feel free to drop some comments in the comment section. We'll do our best to refer to them. If you're listening
Yeah.
to this on one of the podcast platforms, or if you're watching this on youtube.com/Dharma Time, I thank you for that as well. Hopefully today, if we haven't already, you will subscribe so you can get our notifications. And today we're going to continue on with the second part of our, gosh, I think it's 5-part series on this one.
Five part, man.
Yeah, I
Five or
think so.
six, I think.
I think it's 5 on this one
Huh?
of uh, of communication 101, right? And the reason why we did this is because, gosh, there's so many ways to communicate right now in today's world, and yet we all still seem to struggle with communication, right?
Oh my
Um,
God.
be it our interpreting of what others are saying, or what our intentions are and how it comes out, our lack of knowledge of the nuances that are involved in so many different platforms and methodologies.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates strife amongst us. It creates
Yeah.
turmoil. It creates issues with people. Sometimes one of them isn't even aware that there was an issue in the first place.
Mm.
And part of the eightfold path from the Buddhist philosophy is right speech. Right speech is anything that's truthful and useful. So however you communicate, is it truthful and is it useful? Um, and obviously, I always try to tell people that truthful is subjective to an extent. What my truth
Right.
is might be different than somebody else's, but it is
Yeah.
360. And then
Mm-hmm.
useful, that's the snag for a lot of people is it useful? What you deem useful, somebody else might not deem useful. Or is it to
But
be
what you
put in
deem
a,
truthful may other people may not deem that as truthful either.
well, and that's where the truthful is 360, right? The truth is all of our
Yeah.
opinions, whereas useful is a lot more
Right.
subjective even than truth is. Uh,
Yeah.
and so
That's
I figure
true.
we would address some of the common, pitfalls, I guess, that people run into, or some of the common
Huh?
thoughts that people run into about the main forms of communication. So last week we covered text messaging. That was a
Yeah.
pretty interesting one. Today's email. Email is we were gonna lump them in together, but email is slightly different than text messaging. It's got a different feel, different vibe.
Hmm.
There's different rules associated with it. So we decided to give it its own show, so we could do justice to it. But yeah, that's where we're at. So if you guys are tuning in for the first one, welcome. You
Yeah.
Before we get started with all that, how's your day going, man? You've been busy today, right? Because we showed up 10 minutes late today, so I'm sure
I know. I
that's the
apologize,
life of the
man.
one percenter, man.
Is that what it is?
That's right, man.
The life of
We're
somebody that keeps on hopping on Zoom calls and meetings and all
right.
kinds of things. I when you live a life where it revolves around other people's chaos, so, sometimes
Yeah,
you just got to make yourself available. When they're in crisis, and I know my role. I know my role in this world, man. I'm a servant to that, so
there you go.
I can appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
I'm
funny you
not gonna
mentioned.
be I'm not gonna be all negative about it. I got to be no, man. Thankfully, when people are in a situation and they need help, I'm happy to be
Sure.
that person. So I'm never gonna look at that like a bad thing. I
Yeah,
hope
it's
not.
funny you mentioned Zoom. As a matter of fact, we might have to add a sixth one because I don't think we addressed the Zoom in any of our shows, upcoming shows in the series.
Ooh, ooh,
Um,
communication platforms.
yeah, man. But I am seeing like commercials now of like Zoom meetings and things of that nature. So it's definitely the advertisers have caught on to what we're all dealing with, obviously. So it's very
Yeah,
interesting. But
yeah.
well, who knows, man? Maybe you guys leave a comment. Should we do a whole section on the different platforms like Zoom and whatnot? But anyway, so to get started, man. Email. Uh, First off, I'm going to say that to me, I think there is a difference between text messaging and emailing. And the reason why I say that is because texting for me feels a little bit more personal. Only because that's your personal phone, and that's typically a way that people can, connect with you, no matter what you're doing, no matter what time of day. It's a lot more instantaneous. It's a personal phone number. It's just different. To whereas email to me is a lot more impersonal. Now I know there's people out there who have a difference of opinion. There's been plenty of people. I remember back in the day when I was doing different work things, I guess. I would ask for people's email, and occasionally I would get that person that was like, "Why do you want my email?" Like they were very standoffish. It was a very personal thing to them.
Hmm.
Those days seem to have changed. They don't seem as personal anymore. Today's
Right.
world. Um, but yeah, I personally think that text message is more personal. Only because with my email, I choose whether or not I want to check my email. I choose whether or not I'm going to look at it. I can get an email and not even know about it for hours or days or even weeks, depending on who it came from or what have you. Towards a
That's true.
phone call kind of interrupts whatever I'm doing. Even if it's on silent, it's vibrating. It's notifying me, hey, this person's trying to contact you. And so for that reason alone, I view it as more personal. Like I'm not going to just hand that out
Right.
willy nilly, I guess, or I'm not going to,
Right. Right. Right.
if I give somebody my email, it's a much more impersonal thing, I guess. So are we on that same page? Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, especially since like with your email, like you said, I mean, you can have like 16 or 15 of them. I mean, you can have a lot of. I got a lot of emails. I got
Yeah,
at least 8.
yeah, we both have like three or
But
four at least.
when it comes to phones, I mean, there may be some of you out there that have different phones. Well, for whatever reason you want, whether it's business or you have that personal phone that you carry around, that's on you. So maybe it's different. But with emails, there's nobody that doesn't have. I don't think there's many people. I don't know anyone that doesn't have a personal and a business um, email. I mean, unless you're not doing any kind of business whatsoever, then you'll probably just have a personal one.
Mhm.
But most people that are in the job world or in a lifestyle, anything similar to business, will have a business one and a personal one for a reason. I
Well,
mean, but mine all come into the same place anyway, Trinity. So I was,
yeah, they all go to my phone. So, and I
yeah,
started
they all
out
come
actually with that. I started out with a personal and a business, but then my business one just morphed into the one that I always use.
personal. Yeah.
Yeah, and now I use my other one that used to be my personal. I use it as a spam one. So if I need to sign up for something, I'll have it sent
that's
there.
and that's the other one. That's the other one that
Yeah,
people sometimes crave.
yeah,
Sometimes people create one just to give to businesses when they need an email.
yeah. You
But
want to sign up for
I call
something?
bullshit on what you said. By the way, you still have a business one. You got the Trinity P at nowmattersmore.org.
Well, yeah,
That's a
that was for the
business.
foundation. I try to keep that one separate as much as possible,
Yeah.
only because, yeah, like you said, I still check it on the same device. But I
Right.
noticed that as a found, there's certain things that I don't know how long I'll be the president. I don't know what's going on, so I want to be able to, if some sort of a switch needs to happen, I can just send all that and not have to
Right.
mesh the
Right.
two, I guess. But
Right.
even that, I still have now managed more stuff come to my fitness one too. So
Yeah.
even though I try not to. But my point was just that I do feel the email. There's a different dynamic to an email versus a text message.
Right.
Like I would get. I'll be honest, man. I don't know about you, but I lately have been getting a lot of like spam text messages lately. Um, Various different things like real estate and like Amazon gift card, just spam text messages
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
when I would get spam email, I wasn't as offended. I kind of expected it. I get a spam email, I'm like, whatever. They got a whole junk folder designed specifically for that. To whereas when I started getting text messages, I was a little offended at first. Like, dude, why are you texting me? Like this, what?
Yeah.
No, this, it felt much more personal to me.
This is not
Texting,
okay.
yeah, texting me felt the equivalent of like knocking on my door. You know what I mean? Like, why are you
Yes.
here? Like, what are you
Yes.
doing?
Yes.
Whereas an
I
email,
agree.
I kind of expect that. It's like getting a spam phone
Yeah.
call. Like, I'll just send you a voicemail. No big deal. I've come to used to that over the years. Um, but it seems like texting is also kind of becoming the norm, I guess, right? So, um, with emails, I think the thing, and I have a list here, and I'm not going to go in any particular order here.
Right.
Um, but with emails, it's interesting because you have different pet peeves, I think, from people, right? Let's start with one of the ones that I know a lot of people have a problem with, and even I have a bit of a problem with, is the no reply. I kind of have an issue with that one sometimes, because whether it's intended to be or not, and we all know
Yeah.
that there's different perspectives and not everything's personal, but
Okay.
it feels disrespectful if you email somebody and they don't email you back. It does. I think it depends on if you email somebody of stature, maybe. Like if you're trying to email a blue check mark on one of the social medias, somebody who probably
Yeah.
gets a million emails a day, it's understandable. But if it's somebody you're trying to do business with or somebody you've reached out to before and they don't reply at all, it does feel at that moment a little disrespectful. Like, dude, really? You couldn't just send anything back? Um, Granted,
Hmm.
I get it because I also get so many spam emails a day that I don't reply to most of them. And I have a checklist of what I will and won't reply to. I will get to that down here,
Oh,
but
okay.
I do, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I start talking about it.
Uh-oh.
But let's get into the no reply though. Does it
Okay.
bother you if you email somebody if you're trying to reach out to them and they don't reply to you at all? Just
No,
ghost you? It doesn't bother you at all?
no,
Okay. Why is that?
no, because I must do it. I'm a,
Full
I
disclosure here, everybody. Full
full
transparency.
disclosure.
He
Full,
won't reply to text messages or phone call. I'm surprised he opens his door when people show up to the house. Like so, let's just put that transparency out there. It took
I
me over
don't.
a year just to get him
I
on the
actually
phone.
don't.
So yeah,
I don't
exactly.
always answer the door.
That's what the ring is for.
No, I think. Listen, if we're doing something and it's solicited by me, well, then that's different, right? But if I get solicited all the time, Trinity, I mean, so
Sure.
a lot of times it's hard to differentiate what's real, what's not real, or what's something um, I really want to do or not. But here's the real answer. So many come in now, that uh, often I want to get back to it, Trinity. I really do. I look at it, I see it, but I'm checking it as I'm looking for something specific or looking for the emergency, right? I'm looking
Right.
for the fire. I
Sure.
find the fire and I respond to the fire. But then I
Sure.
get so distracted, Trinity. You know me, I'm ADHD, I see squirrels everywhere. I forget to go back, but I've already looked at it real quick, so the green dot goes away.
Yeah.
So then I go do something else, and the next time I look, I just look for the green dots. I think, and that's where I make the mistake,
Well, that's
Trinity.
why in those situations, that was happening to me too.
Yeah,
That's why I actually specifically would go into something that I know it's important
right,
and mark it as
right.
unread, so I can go back and look at it again.
I saw that as an option. I've never used it.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to
I've
learn from
started
this
doing that,
show.
but only
Some
for like ones I know I need to get back to.
I will learn from you, Obi-Wan.
There
Please
you go.
teach.
Yeah, no, the ones that I don't like about the no reply ones though would be,
Hmm.
there was there was a specific individual that you and I both have encountered. That there
Okay.
was a potential hurt feeling situation, and I replied to this person and said, hey, I hope I didn't upset you. I hope I didn't offend you. I'm not really sure how that thing went down, and I never got a reply. And this has been like 8 months later. But I've subsequently heard that this individual didn't necessarily have any hurt feelings, but I didn't hear that directly. The reply, and so to me, that's a little that is disrespectful. That is like, really, dude? Like we already had a conversation going, and I replied based upon a phone conversation, and you never even answered it. And this
Right.
individual does an awful lot of email work, so I know that it was seen, or I'm assuming that it was seen. Um, and so the fact that the reply didn't happen, it was kind of a purposeful thing. And to me, that
Did you
feels
follow
petty.
up? Did you follow up?
I think so. I think it did. Yeah, it's still no reply.
Okay, because my recommendation on that, because I am one that accidentally allows one to slip through the cracks, and I admit it, I know my flaws,
You
is
know the person
follow
I'm
up with
talking
a
about,
second.
though.
I do.
Yeah.
That story matches a lot of
No, this
times.
person is the one that you just had words with. So this person is unstable, anyways.
Man, where's with this person?
Yeah. We
Okay.
talked about him actually last week.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
there you
oh,
go.
oh,
There you go.
okay, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, you did just fine. But
Yeah.
the point is, I think you should do it a second time. I
Yeah.
don't. I'm
I
not
agree.
the kind of person that, look. If you reach out to somebody and they don't respond to you directly, that could do a lot of crap to your head. I recommend you try again. What I tell people who really truly want to get in touch with me, and you've heard me say this to people, I say, blow me up.
Yeah.
I am the one that's okay with you blowing me up if it's that important. Now, if you blow
Sure.
me up for stupidity, I'll deal with you when we finally have a conversation or meet face to face. But if you blow me up because of something that's absolutely important and necessary, please do that, because that's
Sure.
the squeaky wheel does get greased.
Yeah.
That's reality. Plus, like I said, I'm always chasing fires, so I look for the fires that need to be put out.
Sure.
So I apologize to everybody that wants to just have a casual conversation. And if you're out there, and I know you're out there, people that get offended by my no reply, let me just apologize broadly. Look, if you wanted to reach me, just reach me. I'm not trying to be self-important. I'm not trying to say that I'm more important than you. I'm just probably more distracted than the average bear. And just please understand that. That's who I am.
Sure.
That's my flaw. That's a big flaw.
Well, I'll second that one because yes, well, our first introduction took over a year, so.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry.
so that you said something earlier that actually leads me into the second one I have listed. Once again, these are in no particular order. We just started jotting them down as we were brainstorming for the show, but it does lead me to the second one. So earlier you mentioned something about if it was important or for certain ones that you want to make sure you reply to or whatever. But there's so many, it's kind of hard to discern. So I said I have a checklist, right?
Yeah.
Well, kind of number one on my checklist, it's a pet peeve for mine that I usually don't respond to. And if I do, it's passive aggressive at best if I respond to it at all. And that's the copy paste ones. Like so, for whatever reason I have this massive following on LinkedIn, like well over 10,000 people on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, LinkedIn, gosh, dude, I get so many messages on LinkedIn for people just wanting to do business, right? The problem is when I look at the email, when I look at the message, I notice that it's all formatted a certain way and it's all just very long and wordy. And it's like, dear whatever, my name, and then it'll have this like 2 or 3 paragraph long thing. And it was like, in best regards, it's very well written, but it's obvious to me that you just copied that and you pasted that to like 50 people, 100 people, and I was just on the list. That was
Right.
not personal. And the other one I would get a lot, and I know you've gotten this a lot because we actually we got bit in the ass on this one a little bit too with Rob Kelly. Is I get a lot of people asking me all the time to come on our shows. They'll
Yeah.
say, "Hey, can we come on the show for this, that, and the other?" And I know it's just shameless promotion half the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I read through it, I'm like, well, what value do you bring to our listeners, right? I'm not going to give you a
Right. Right.
platform just because, like, if my
You know
listeners
what?
don't care what you have to say, or if it doesn't work into what we do, then why would I have
Right.
you on?
Right.
And so I get so many of those, but it's obvious about 2 sentences in that they've never watched a single episode of our shows. They don't know anything about us. And it was just a copy and paste. They just basically
Yeah.
found out, because I guess our numbers are doing pretty decent in certain platforms, we're on their radar, so we've made the list of people they've emailed, even though it has nothing to do with what we're doing. Um,
Right.
so those ones I don't. To me, it is, and it's probably petty of me, but for me, it's if you didn't want to put the effort in to at least be aware of what it is that we're doing, or you didn't put the effort in to at least make it personal somehow, some way to stand out above the rest. If my time was only valuable enough to show or to warrant a copy paste, then I'm going to respond with the same kind of effort, which is not at all or passive. Like I'm not going to give any
Yeah.
effort. Um,
Do you
now,
respond to them?
very rarely, and if I do, it's usually passive aggressive. Like I don't
Okay.
respond with them with the intent of actually doing anything.
Right. 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 Now, are
Um,
we talking about LinkedIn on this show, or are we going to address that on the
well, I'm just
social
talking about
media
emails and
show?
period.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I get emails as well. Like I'll get
All right.
emails from people that are copy and paste. Like this whole big like, hey, it's obvious that email was probably sent out to like 1,000
Yeah, I get
people,
that one.
and it's just like delete. I just don't really. I just don't have time or patience. Like it's just. To me, that's like a robocaller. It's like the second when I answer my phone, if I hear a recorded message, I just hang
Right.
up.
Right. Right. Right.
Why?
Exactly.
I'm not gonna. And so to me, when you email me something and you don't have any sort of human kind of
Right.
personality to it,
Right.
I
Right.
just
Right.
disregard it, no matter what's in it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
on
it's
one of my
almost like
checklists.
it's almost like spelling my name wrong. Like, right? If you so,
Yeah,
so if you oh wow, man. Yeah. I always eat on this show, man. It's like, is that even allowed? I mean, that's so
who
like
cares?
bad radio etiquette to eat on the show. David
I
from
think we do a lot of
Telemed
bad radio
stuff
etiquette. I don't think we're
just
known
brought
for
me.
our.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? I mean, these guys treat me so well over here, man. I'm like I said, I'm over here at Telemed clinics. They just brought me pizza. It's
Nice.
freaking awesome. Anyway, so what was I gonna say? If you say like Luis, right, like my formal name, Luis,
Yeah,
Luis, typically I just know. I mean, you've told me that before. I knew that guy didn't know you because the way he
yeah,
called you by your
yeah.
name, and that's normal, right? Like if someone calls you by your formal name or some misspells your name,
Yeah.
that's like, why do I even need to read the email?
Yeah.
I think one of the things with emails is they can be lengthy if we have business. If we're
Yeah.
doing business, it probably needs to be lengthy. There's probably things that need to be explained in that. What I don't like is lengthy emails, and I have yet to know you. Unless I request a second email to
Yeah.
explain what you want to discuss, it's not going to happen, man. It's almost like reading a book. Like when you go to the library or when you go to a bookstore,
Yeah.
and you just open up. If the cover doesn't excite me or the back of the book doesn't
Yeah.
excite me, I'm not opening it. Well, if I open it and the type of print or the way it looks is not to my liking, I'm not even going to read a word. That's just the way it is, right? Isn't it the same with emails? You should think
I
about the
would assume so.
structure of the damn thing, man.
Well, yeah, I think that like with the copy paste thing, right? Regardless
Yeah.
of the length, yeah, if I'm reading it and it's obvious, like painstakingly obvious within the first sentence, I've actually had that. I've had somebody send me a
I
message
mean,
one time, and it says like dear whatever, and they got the name wrong, like completely wrong, like didn't say dear Trinity. It was like dear, Robin.
oh
Okay,
yeah,
so
you know
you
they cut and
obviously,
pasted that one.
yeah, they cut and paste and they obviously didn't change the name out. It's like, or the stuff is so vaguely worded, there's no personal. It's obvious. We all have it, and we've all probably done them at some point as well.
Right.
Um, and so I think that you kind of nailed it on the head, right? In a world where we're bombarded with so many, you literally have a few seconds to get my attention before I move on to the next. And
Yep.
if you are doing something with like a copy and paste, for instance, you're going to lose my attention very quickly because it doesn't stand out. It's copy and paste. I immediately analyze it, like, okay, that whatever. I'm gonna delete that because
Hmm.
even if it was like the cure for cancer, I'm never going to find out because within the first few minutes there was no personality. There was nothing to capture my 12-second attention span as I'm scrolling to try to get rid of all these blue dots.
Yep.
And so, if you're wanting somebody to take you seriously, or if you're wanting somebody to respond, take the extra time out to personalize it somehow, some way. Do something that should like take the time out of your day to type it out, as opposed to
Yeah.
just copy and paste. And if you want to just copy and paste, then that's fine. But don't be disappointed or surprised when nobody
Yeah.
responds back except for maybe one or
Right.
two. And that's probably why they do it, right? It's the law of averages, the 10% rule. As long as they send out
Right.
1,000, I'll get 100 back, and out of that 100, I'll get a client.
Yeah.
Which is
You
one
know
way of
the
doing business.
the emails I do retraining. If you text me and you said, "Hey, just sent you an email,"
Yeah,
I go look for it.
yeah.
Now, that is a beautiful way to send an
My
email.
wife literally did that to me yesterday.
That is am I the only one though? Is that normal? Am I wrong to do? But like when people say, "Oh, I'll send you an email," I always tell them, "Hey, text me when you send that email so I go look for it." Because
Sure.
I think some people treat email like texting. I think they think I have notifications on my phone that when they send an email, like I get a
Yeah.
notification. I don't have
Yeah.
notifications for emails on my
Yeah,
phone.
me
That would
either.
drive me crazy.
Oh, I get too many.
So I prefer that if you're going to send me an email, text me. Tell me
Yeah.
you're going to send me an email. I mean that you just sent me an email, then I know to look for it.
Yeah,
But I think
I
people
would
get
agree with
all
that.
because some people you email them, they email you immediately. It's like, what the hell
Yeah.
are you doing? Are you right in front of a computer the whole time? You have your email up the whole time. How do you do that?
Right.
I don't. I
Um,
don't do that.
the next one I have on my list here is, and I'm gonna group these next two together because they're kind of
All
in the
right.
same ballpark.
All
And
right. I'm
that
going to
is,
keep eating my pizza while you do that. Go ahead.
you do that. It's either
Sorry,
CC,
people. Sorry,
CC,
people.
and reply all. Those are the two
Yeah,
next
reply
ones.
all.
I'm gonna put those together because you typically can't reply all unless you've been CC'd, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
I think the etiquette when it comes to CCing somebody, there's CC and then there's BCC. In other words, one's hidden and one's not.
Yeah.
Um, to me, I look at for me if we're not in a group environment where we're all working on something to where we all need to be notified about something, then I view that as very much a CYA,
Hmm.
right? That's how I
Right.
view that. Like if
Right.
I'm going to respond to somebody, and let's say
Right.
I'm a subordinate, right, and I'm talking to
Right.
my coworkers, then when I email somebody and I CC our boss on it, that's because I'm trying to cover my ass. I want my boss to be aware of the fact that we had this conversation, or it's very transparent. That to me is how I view that. Unless, of course, we're involved, like you and I are involved in numerous different threads when it comes to the
Right.
foundation and things we're working
Yeah.
on.
Hmm.
Um, and So we get a lot of CCs that half the time I don't pay attention to unless, once
I
again,
know
unless
you don't, because I know you don't.
yeah, unless I get called and told, hey, this is important, because oftentimes I'll start to look at it and realize this has nothing to do with,
Yeah,
this
like
doesn't
when it's a
require my,
contract.
yeah, yeah, it
You
doesn't
just
require
ignore
my
it.
involvement yet until somebody tells me, hey, this is what you need to do, and then I'll get it done immediately.
Yeah, you
But
need to sign.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's one right now. There's one right now that I'm seeing that we've had going on for like a week, and I don't know anything about it. And I figured that was between everybody else because they'll CC and stuff, and unless I'm specifically mentioned, I'm just assuming they're just
That's
keeping me in the
funny.
loop.
No,
Um,
you'll know because I'll text you. You need to go
yeah,
look at that email and sign it.
yeah, and then I'll go look at it and it'll be done. But that's because with CCs, to me, they're very. And once again, unless I know to be expecting something, CC to me just feels like I'm keeping you in the loop or I'm covering my ass. That's really all that feels to me.
Yeah. The
Um,
problem with that, the problem with CC is the second part you just mentioned, the reply
reply
all.
all.
Listen, people, if you hit reply all, I see your reply. So be
Yeah,
careful what you reply.
that's on our
That's
list too, by the way.
it should be included right here because that reply all
We'll
is
include, so on the
dangerous.
list, we'll go ahead and add it in real quick. We'll do
All
the three
right,
of
go
them
ahead.
together. The CC, the
All
reply
right.
all, and then I have don't put anything in writing unless you're willing to share it.
Yeah, yeah, and that can even be a standalone too. But yeah, I mean, listen, people, some of you just say too damn much in email, man. I mean,
Yeah,
you put in writing some stuff that you really shouldn't do. Like Trinity and I love cracking, right? We crack
sure.
on people, we crack on ourselves, we crack on a lot of things. But we know we're kidding, and and we have a good sense of humor with each other. But if it's something important and we want to talk about you, we're probably not going to put it in an email or text when we're talking about you. When we're talking about you, we'll do it like on the phone
Sure.
or like here, maybe even on the show. We'll talk about you. No, I'm kidding. What I'm saying is that don't put something in writing and then accidentally reply. Like if you're CC'd in something, go like, well, this guy's crazy. I'll never sign that contract. Or what is he? You know, you just let them all know. Or if you're in a
Yeah.
negotiation, I've seen people in a negotiation, financial negotiation, and they put, don't take anything less than this, or if they, we'll take this number, but don't tell him. You just replied off, fool. You just let everybody know what your number is. So you got to be real careful with that. You need
Yeah,
to just
yeah.
pick up the phone at that point and discuss this. That's why to me, I emails to me are just they go off into a place where it's too. I feel too exposed. Maybe is that
Right.
the right way to say it?
Yeah,
So I'm
you
very
can be.
short with email. Anyone that ever email sees it, I'm real short to the point, and I like get out of it. I
Yeah.
don't
Same here.
respond to a lot of emails, but I will respond by calling you back. So if you send me an email, a lot of times I won't reply, Trinity, but I will call that person and say, hey, man, I got your email. This is what I'm thinking. But some people are so addicted to email, or because that's the way their brain is structured,
Yeah.
they're so that business minded, that I'll tell them something. They go, whoa, just write me an email. Just write me an email about it. I'm like, all right. And it's always just, I get like that disappointment, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll write an email.
Well, the other
But I really
thing that
don't want to write the.
the other problem with emails oftentimes, especially when you're not dealing with like just statistics and numbers, like a business thing,
Mm-hmm,
is the interpretation, the emotions of it, right? Like you don't know how to
mm-hmm,
read it, so you don't know what that other person's like state of mind was when it was
yeah,
written, and that's why I
yeah,
don't like to have anything that could be interpreted differently through text or even email.
yeah.
And I do approach email as a much more business professional kind of thing, mainly
Mm-hmm, me
because
too.
it is a great way to. It's very impersonal, but it's all recorded, right? It's all on record, and so to me, that's why I view
All
email
there.
as a very professional, very hey, this is what I'm doing. This, it's very just informative, right? I don't want to get very personal in an email. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so when other people do get personal with me, it is weird on an email. I don't typically reciprocate that. Which leads me to one of my other things on here. Once again, guys,
Yeah,
we're flowing through all these. There's no in particular
I
order.
agree.
If you got any comments, by all means, feel free to put it in on the chat. Once again, they're
And I,
listening to us live on Facebook.com/WPSN99. That's how you can participate in the live discussion if you want. Go ahead. You had
and I
something you want to say?
apologize again. No, I just want to apologize
Oh,
again, man. On pizza, it's
sure.
freaking good.
So
This
the other one,
pizza place right here in Sanford, by the way, here on the water, where his office is,
sure.
freaking pretty damn good, man. So I'm sorry, I
Um,
apologize.
but the other one I have on here too, that's kind of in line with what we're talking about here,
Mm-hmm.
is emojis and smiley faces.
Hmm.
So with those, it's very interesting on when to use them. You know, when it comes to texting somebody, those are kind of commonplace these days.
Yeah.
With those ones, you're really kind of judged on whether, you know, if it's too personal or not personal enough, those kinds of things. But with email, I typically only see my smiley faces. That's really all I only see. And I think that those are typically tried to put in, hey, I'm just joking, or this is funny, or I'm happy in this particular instance. Um, but I'm not really. I'll use them in texting, but I won't. I almost very rarely ever use them in an email unless I personally know the person, and I'm
Hmm.
trying to show them that I'm not too serious at the moment, because I'm aware that sometimes my verbiage can come off harsh, even though I don't intend to. So if I'm worried that I'm going to offend this person in what I just said, I'll put like a smiley face at the end to try to, hey, soften the blow, I guess. Um, but I only do that to people I know. Like I will never use an emoji or a smiley face or anything like that to a business professional that I'm trying to do business with, or they're going back and forth. I just won't.
That's a good observation, Trinity. I never thought about that, but I don't. I'll use the emojis in texting, but I also very rarely would use it in an email. I
Yeah,
did. I never thought about that until you just mentioned it, though.
that's just I personally view emails as much more of a professional thing. But that's the
Hmm.
thing is not everybody does. I mean, there's a whole slew of people out there that's how they communicate is via email. They prefer it that way, and that's their personal thing. But for me, it's just not.
Why?
Um, I don't know why is it not for me. I don't know. I
No.
think, or why
Mm-hmm.
do they?
Hmm.
That I don't know. And that's part of what we're doing the shows on, right? Is we're trying to let people know that there's these nuances, and just because you feel a certain kind of way, like I can't get offended if I get an email tomorrow and somebody's using like
Right.
smiley faces in it, because they might not know or realize that that's just not how I do it. So instead of getting angry or offended or upset that this person's doing this, I do me. So if they want to use them, that's fine. I'm not gonna tell them
Right.
not to. I just whenever I reply, they'll never see it. I just won't do it.
You know what I think it is with me, Trinity? I think it's because, to me, and this is just a theory I'm having, because so early in my life, everything I live such a double life and such secrecy and so many things that I don't,
Same here.
you don't need to know. You don't need to know my business. So I think that's why I'm not a big fan of email. To be honest with you,
Same here.
I don't need to put my words or my thoughts in a situation where it could be read back wrong. Like when I'm
Yeah.
talking to you face to face, if you got a problem with what I'm going to say or what I'm saying, we can have that conversation, right? But when you put it in an email, like you said, it can be misinterpreted. It can be used against you later. Um, and I shouldn't think like that, Trinity, because
I do
that's
too.
like 30 years ago,
No,
man.
I do
But
too,
I
though.
think I really do feel that that's at the bottom of that. That's what's at the concrete or the formatting of why I don't like emails as much. I think it's
Um,
just once
yeah,
it's out there, I can't get it back. I can't take it
yeah.
back.
Well, I'm right there with you. Same thing.
Good,
Because
good.
I've done so many things in my life, and I've lived, as you put it, double lives so often early on. I've always been hyper aware of what could be used against me later on. What
Hmm.
doesn't line up to this? What doesn't line up to that?
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm fully aware that like in the legal system, people are pulling up text messages and emails as proof. So I'm always very aware, and maybe that's why I do one word answers so many times. I'm just not trying to
Mm.
get involved in anything. I don't know. I don't intend for that to come out, but
Right, right, right.
maybe it's just a byproduct of a previous life too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is also why I keep them all very personal. I'm more apt to get personal on a phone call or in person than I am
Right.
over written word.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah,
Night and day. Night and day.
yeah,
I don't get personal at all in writing. I mean,
yeah.
that person that you mentioned earlier, that that person and I had words. You won't find there's no written words that I said.
Yeah,
No, there's a lot of written words that other person said, but everything I said was straight to the point,
sure.
professional, all that. I prefer everything face to face
Yeah,
when it comes to
agreed.
that.
Enrique just commented on him. They put it up on the screen. Thank you,
What
Enrique,
is
for chiming in too, man. He says I
Pasó,
do.
Enrique?
He said I do believe that a lot can get lost in translation during short written communication. I agree, man,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why last week and even this week when we're talking about written, I'm not a fan of having personal discussions over written word. Um, I know back in the day with pen pals and everything else, but we're not in those days anymore, you know. So we don't have to. We can just call the phone. We can FaceTime. We can just go to the corner and meet. Like There's so many influxes in tone, in mannerisms, in body language, micro expressions on your face. There's so many different things that are involved in trying to communicate what you're doing, and I use all of them. And so to limit myself to only written word, and my dialect, is different than some. And some people might see my harshness or something like that, and I don't intend it to be. But
Yeah.
because I'm writing something, I do try to get to the point as quickly as I can with as few words as I
Yeah.
can. Because I don't want to sit here typing. I don't want to do that. I got other things I want to do in my life, man. So I just yes, no, and I'm on my way. But the other person can read that as well. What's wrong with you? You just said yes. It was nothing. I'm just don't want to do
Well,
this. And so I try to avoid that because of that very reason, because it can be lost in translation.
and thank
Waiting
you,
for
and thank
Rachel.
you.
Yeah, it was good, I'm sure.
I can't help it, man. I'm starving, and they brought pizza. Anyway, so all right, so with that, here's the problem with some of that conversation and communication. Some people use it like, well, I replied. Now I can ignore it, and I don't need to answer it again until tomorrow. My problem with emails is that's the way they go. Unless you're sitting there and you're going back and forth. But if you're going back and forth, then pick up the damn phone. But
Exactly.
if you send me an email and I sent you an email, chances of me now reading your next email
Yeah.
is slim. I'm gonna reply tomorrow now. So unless you want every day you get a new addition to the conversation, don't email me. Pick up the phone.
That's actually another one we have, so let's just go ahead and throw that in
Oh,
there. Time of day, right? So
mm,
time of day is a couple nuances to the time of day, right? First and foremost, I agree with you. Unless it's like early in the morning and it's a business venture that we're working on or something that's time sensitive, if I
mm-hmm,
emailed you, yeah, I'm done like until tomorrow. Unless it's like eight
mm-hmm.
o'clock in the morning. If it's 8 a.m. and I emailed you back and I'm expecting a response, then I'll look again in a couple hours or whatever.
Right.
But if it's a random kind of like question or email, yeah, I will answer, and then you're off my list until like tomorrow at the earliest.
Yeah, you
And
got your attention.
that's the convenience of email is I can
Right.
respond whenever I feel like it. Whereas a text message, you're expected to respond much sooner.
Yeah.
Email, you can email me today, and I might not get back to you for 2 or 3 days, even if I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because I don't care, right? Like whatever it is, I'm just like if it's not like you said an emergency or a fire to put out or something that I'm expecting, then
Mm-hmm.
okay, you've reached out, duly noted, and I'll put you on the list. You might not be at the top, but you'll be on there. To whereas a
That's why I
text
wanted.
message moves you up
Mhm.
further on the list faster.
That's why I wanted to make sure we weren't talking about social media today. You brought up that LinkedIn thing because I said those people they're waiting. They've been waiting for years. There's people that have sent
Yeah,
me instant messenger or LinkedIn messages.
yeah,
You
same
will
here.
never get a reply there.
Yeah,
You better use my cell phone.
yeah.
I
No, we'll
will
get to social media
never.
for sure because
Yeah, yeah.
that's a whole beast
Woo.
right there.
I respond better to
So
emails, and that's saying something.
yeah, the other thing for time of day would be, and I think you brought this one up in our brainstorming session, and that is being aware of the time of the day that you emailed the individual, right?
Mm,
There's a couple different reasons for that. For me, I don't necessarily care. Like that's the benefit of email is I can answer you if I'm bored or I can't sleep. It's like 2:30 in the morning. I can answer an
right.
email without fear of waking you up or being inappropriate because of time. Like I can just be like, all right, I got an hour. Let me knock out some emails. But there's a downside to that for some people. Like if you don't want somebody to know that you're up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning answering emails, there is a timestamp on there. So be aware of that and acknowledge it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's important for some people because you know you may not want people to know that you're you know up at 4 a.m. Like if you answer an email at 4 a.m. or 3 weird hours. I'm not talking like 6 a.m. where you expect somebody. Some people are
Sure.
awake at 6 a.m. or midnight, which some people are still awake. But when you do that 2:33, 4 a.m.
Yeah.
reply,
Your thought
which
is
I
like,
never
wow.
look at, by the way, so don't worry about it. If you send me an email, I never look at the time because I can care less.
Sure.
But some people do because some people have made comments to me about, wow, you were up at blah, blah, blah. And it's like, now that felt a little intrusive. Did
You know what? I had to happen last week. Somebody said that they saw me on social media. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was like, dang, you were
that
up.
not feel intrusive?
It felt weird. It felt like, okay, was I? Like, I didn't even know if I was
Yeah.
up at that late.
Yeah. Look, when you start knowing what I'm doing or where I'm at or how I'm replying,
Yeah.
that,
Well, the
now
point
you
is, some people pay attention, and
pay
so
attention to that.
if you're not interested in having that discussion or
Out there.
dynamic, then
Yeah.
maybe you rethink that,
Right.
or whatever.
And 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 I'm sorry, but
Go
most
ahead.
importantly, for the opposite sex. So for those of you that are in married
Mm.
situations like me, you don't email someone of the opposite sex that may interpret it differently at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That is why I brought it up. Why I brought it up is like with certain people, you just want to make sure that the boundaries are set properly because
Yeah.
you don't want problems with boundaries. And although we all should be secure in our relationships and since there's nothing going on, there's nothing going on. Look, I get your philosophy, but clearly you're probably not in a relationship because if you were in a relationship, a healthy, you have these conversations and discussions and your
Yeah.
significant other probably gave you the rules and boundaries. Like don't ever go alone to coffee together. Don't, all these little rules. Well, one of them is don't text or write an email at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You don't want them to be thinking that you're thinking about them. They might interpret that wrong. Even though
Yep.
you're doing it pure business, they may interpret it different. So it's like, whoa,
Sure.
okay, I got you.
Well, and that leads me to another one then, since we have it on here, and that is the
Well,
sexting thing.
oh
Um,
boy,
Stop sending stuff
texting.
to people. Yeah, because people they'll
I
send,
thought we were talking email.
well, they'll email pictures of
Oh,
themselves. They'll email,
mm,
um, don't. Just don't. In today's day and world, you just understand that there's so many servers and clouds and things of that
uh,
nature, that most likely the person that you intended to see that either
yeah,
didn't or is one of many.
yeah,
And it never goes away. I
right.
would not recommend doing that. But on the flip side of that, also understand that if your spouse receives something like that, we can't control what we receive as human beings.
Yeah, go ahead and
We
give us a disclaimer now, Trinity.
No, thankfully I don't have any. But my point is, you can't. There has to be an understanding there that you can't, because like with us, we have public personas. We have people out, especially with what we do. There's a vulnerable population, and sometimes they're unhealthy, and they'll say and do things. Like I've had
Yeah.
people in groups and stuff say some pretty crazy things to me.
Mhm.
We can't control what's said to us or done like that. What we can do is our response, and that's where the focus
Right.
should be on. But when it comes to email
Well,
and pictures that shouldn't be emailed, things of that nature, as we said earlier, don't put anything on there that you're not willing for the world to see. Period.
don't email me anything like that. Don't email me inappropriate stuff. Don't email me your pictures. Please don't do that because even though I'm not asking for it, if you send it to me, I'm gonna get in trouble for it. I don't need that problem. So
Yeah.
be mindful that if you're choosing to send that to somebody, you know what you just did. So
Sure.
and for those of you that are in a relationship, so oh, they're on a business trip. My wife doesn't send me pictures like that. I don't send her pictures like that. Why? Because I don't trust all this stuff like
Yeah.
that. And plus, what if you're just dating? Even if you're married, nobody deletes those pictures. They keep them. So when they keep them, your picture is forever saved in a cloud
Yeah.
thing. Uh, don't do it. You might break up with that person. You may no longer be with that person later. So you're not going to like that picture is out there. Um, anyway, I mean, you can always get like your records back. I'm a 51-year-old. You can always get your records back, but you can't get your pictures back. So anyway,
Well,
that's
that leads me to another one that's on here that's in the same world, right? And that is forwarding. There's a couple things with forwarding, right? There's the chain letter forwarding, where somebody would send me this stupid chain letter that they were supposed to say. Believe it or not, people still do that. Um, Another one would be the forwarding of like dirty jokes or bad pictures or things of that nature. Because I do have friends who, hey man, I found this, let me forward it to you. Um,
mm-hmm.
but for me, I know those people, so it's like if I'm going to open something from somebody, I want to make sure like my kids aren't looking over my shoulder at the moment because you never know what that could or couldn't be, that kind of stuff. But all those things have to be taken in consideration if you're going to forward stuff. The other one would be forwarding something to somebody without an explanation of why you forwarded it to them. That happens quite a bit, where you'll get something like, "Why am I looking at this? Why did they send this to me?" And it's because they never said, "Hey, I forwarded this because this is my thought process." They just sent it forward.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of goes forwarding goes along with me of don't put anything in writing that you don't want someone else to see. That kind of goes with that along with me too, because some of you you're in a trio of a relationship, right? Friendships, and so you say something to somebody, or you're going back and forth, and you're having a personal dialogue. Um, that can be forwarded to the other person. There's a lot of
Yep.
people out there that aren't really your friends like you think they are. They're
Yeah.
more loyal to the other person than to you, or they just like stir in the pot, stir in the
Sure.
pot. And what they're doing is they're forwarding your responses to that person. And I'll give you a hint to when that happens. If they're forwarding you a conversation that someone is sending them, the likelihood of them forwarding something that you're saying is also there. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
going to happen because their loyalty just may be to you. I get it. But at least it should make you think that that behavior exists.
Yep.
Therefore, it can probably happen. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another one I have on here, and this is a pet peeve of mine. Period.
Oh.
Um, and that is the text talk, grammar, spelling, things of that nature. This is, oh man, this is bothersome to me. It really
It
truly
is,
is.
huh?
It is. It is. I don't know why. I am a grammar Nazi, dude. And I'll tell you part of the reason why.
Mm.
Um, and I've tried to explain this to my daughter tons of times, right? Because this is a spiritual thing in the sense of it
Yes, sir.
affects the things around us. It affects how we're seen. It affects the ease of our life at times and the opportunities that we may not get. And you know, all it is interconnected, believe it or not. Um, I try to get my daughter to understand this. My 16-year-old, she'll text me sometimes, and every time I text back, it's always, I use proper spelling, punctuation, things of that nature. And then with emails, I'm even more on top of it on emails. On emails, I will actually go back and proofread it before I send it to make sure because I do view
Yeah.
it as more professional. But like my daughter one time was doing something, I can't remember what it was. I tried to explain this to her. Something. Oh, it was at my here at my local. We have a central like location for our mailboxes, and so the homeowner association would put up something trying to talk to the neighborhood, and it was just atrocious when I looked at it. It was the spelling was wrong, the grammar was wrong. It was just the type of mistakes to where if I'm putting money down, I'm gonna say the English was not this person's first language, and they just did it, and so honest mistakes, I guess. I don't know if the mistakes that I saw probably are not indicative of the intelligence level of the person. More so, it's indicative of the translation. However, it still leads me to judge whoever wrote that. It does. Only because you didn't take the time. You did it on a computer, obviously, which has spell check. You're just lazy. You didn't do the right thing. And to me, that speaks volume as to who you are if you didn't take the time out to get something right. An occasional mistake here and there, but there's certain ones that are just egregious. My point being is my daughter never believed that. And then she saw that sign and she laughed. And she's like, oh, I was like, oh, wait a minute. So you trying to tell me that you're judging the person who wrote that? It's like exactly, and that's why I'm always telling you, especially now because she's getting in to the business world. She's trying to get jobs and things of that nature. And a lot of this stuff is done online, and so a lot of this stuff is done through emails. And so I'm telling her, on your emails, make sure you take the time out of your day to spell check it. Make sure your grammar's right, because people are going to look at that and they are going to judge your level of intelligence, your level of capabilities based upon what that is, and rightfully so because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know who you are. They don't know your education. They don't know your background. They don't know the context of what you sent it. They can only judge you based upon what you gave them. And if what you gave them was incorrect and littered with spelling errors and things of that nature, when you had all the tools at your disposal, then what that tells them is you might not be a good hire because
Yeah.
you obviously don't know how to utilize the tools around you. You don't care enough on the presentation. So how can I hire you to represent my company when you don't represent yourself even? And
Right.
so the
We.
grammar and the spelling, this text talk that everybody's gotten into, yeah, dude, I have a huge pet. If I that's the other in an email. If somebody's trying to do business with us and they send an email,
Yeah.
I immediately cue in on the
Yeah.
mistakes, and
Yeah.
and the reason why I do that is sadly I'm almost right every single time. The amount of times that I'm right when I see a flaw and I say, I'm not sure about this person, it's usually right.
About
If they,
everything,
if
Trinity. Just so you know, you're usually
what?
right about everything.
Yeah,
You,
yeah. Ask my wife about that one. She disagreed. No, my point is though, like if I get an email and I question, I don't know if this person's right to do business with because these are the
right.
details.
Right.
Usually, if we continue to deal with them, I'm proven right later on. Like, yeah, their attention to detail sucks. They're not right for us.
Yeah.
And so there's a reason why I do listen to that gut instinct because it says a lot about it. So I am very, very anti spelling and grammatical errors, and people do it all the time in emails, man. People do it
I get it.
all the time.
Look, I've been sucked into that a little bit. I got to admit, I'm a lot less good at it than I used to be. However, I do find myself still doing the salutations. I still sign the bottom of an email. Like I don't sign a text. Like some people do. Like
Yeah, I had a friend that did that. It was weird.
like D Straw always puts the D Straw,
Yeah,
right?
he does.
But I don't. I don't put Louis after every text message.
No,
And so, but with emails, I'll put the person's name, comma, and then like letter format,
sure.
and then Louis. Typically, now
I have a built-in
when
signature.
it's got that too, but when it's definitely informal, Dr. Tom Hall from Orange County and I just had this conversation. It's funny that we just we just talked about it because he goes I love sending you emails, and I go, why is that? He goes, because I don't have to write anything. Like he'll just forward me something with no explanation or writing because we're talked about it already.
Right.
Whereas I guess because he represents Orange County,
Sure.
when he has to send an email, everything he writes has to be formal.
Sure.
He's representing the mayor. But when he sends it to me, since he doesn't represent anybody when he sent it to me, apparently.
Sure.
And I agree. I'm like, oh yeah, me too. Because when I send him something, I do the same thing. Or if I send you something,
Sure.
I forward things all the time to you and say nothing about it. I know that we'll talk about it. Like you'll ask me later, like, hey, I got that email. Like, am I supposed to do anything with that? So
Yeah.
I don't need to explain everything in an email. Why should
Sure.
I sit there and go, hey, Trinity, what I need you to do is, can you please look this over, see if there's anything you want me to tell the realtor, see if there's anything.
Sure.
I don't need to do all that. So but yeah, I like that. I did get sucked in a little bit. I do find myself being not as correct grammatically, but still more than most, more than a lot.
Yeah, I think. Well, I've seen even with you, it depends on who we're sending it to.
Depends on who we're sending it to.
Yeah, I'll see you pull out your degree depending on who it is, and you're going to make sure that people know that you're educated. And then there's other people you're like, I don't really give a shit. And I can feel you on that one. But
Yeah.
for me, I just, to me, it says an awful lot about you. You know,
Enrique, we like you vocal. What are you talking about?
yeah, man. Actually,
Yeah.
Enrique. Side note, time out for just 1 second. It was a few weeks
Yeah.
ago. Remember when I met you at that place down the street from me to take those pictures or whatever? It was like, I don't know, maybe
Me?
yeah. I met you like a month ago or a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So as I was leaving, I'm sitting in the parking lot. Guess who I see walk right by my truck and didn't even recognize me? Enrique.
Him?
Yeah, I guess he was coming to see you or somebody else. Literally right after so I was in the parking lot
No,
and he walked
he
right in
sits
front
on
of his
that
truck.
board. He
Okay.
sits on the board with me.
So Enrique, what's up, bro? You walked right past me. You didn't even acknowledge me, man. I see how it goes. You don't see white people. That's cool. See, I could joke like that because we know him.
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, I am very anti grammatical errors and things of that nature. It just, oh gosh, dude, it's just such a simple thing to do. It's attention to details. It's such
Yeah.
like if you forgot an apostrophe or something, hey, it is what it
Yeah.
is. But if something is egregious and it's completely misspelled, or if it's just way wrong, I just there's no excuse for that, man. It
Right.
really isn't.
It does reflect on you, regardless.
It
I mean,
does.
unless look, everything you wear, everything you say, everything you write, all those things are ways that people kind of get an idea of who and what you are. So even though we live in a time where you should just accept everybody and you shouldn't judge and you shouldn't presume, and there's no such thing as stereotypes. Oh, I'm calling bullshit. We do all of that, and the
Yeah.
reason we do all of that is because we all profile. That's your existence. If you don't profile, then you'd be bumping your head against the same wall over and over again. No, you learn from a lot of these things. Now, you're not always going to be right, but your brain tells you a little something with every little thing that you feel, see, and understand, right?
Yep.
So if you're emailing somebody on a professional level and you're all grammatically incorrect, dude, I don't care how smart you are or how together you are, that person is probably going to make a judgment upon you because you don't even know how to write a proper email. So that's
Yeah.
probably going to happen. So just expect it.
And how that relates to spiritualness is our
Enrique
well-being.
says he writes with an
Yeah.
accent.
I saw that. But that's part of our spiritual well-being, right? Like if we email somebody and we're all grammatically incorrect or any of these mistakes that we're talking about on the show today,
Right. Right.
it's going to affect our inner peace potentially. Because we're
Yeah.
gonna maybe we'll miss out on something, or maybe we took something personal, or maybe somebody else took something that
Right.
we did or didn't do
Right.
personal, and then
Right.
it affects your inner peace and it gives you this turmoil. Then you start, well, nobody likes me. Well, no, it's not that nobody likes you. It's just when you send out emails, it looks like a third grader did it, and nobody wants to hire that person.
Right.
So maybe get
Right.
better at that, and you'll get more opportunities, and you won't feel so depressed every day that you're not getting opportunities. I'm not saying that's the only reason why, but this contributes. That's the problem. That's where we're at with the communication 101. That's why we're doing these shows, is because there's so much connected to how we communicate and how we're interpreted and how we interpret others that if you're not aware of these things and how they might be impacting you, it's
Right.
affecting your inner peace and you're not even aware of it.
Well, you should
The
always
last,
know your audience. Period.
yeah. Well,
Know
and
your audience.
the last one I have here, and then we'll do our wrap ups and stuff. The last one I have here is just to me is the funniest one. It's kind of what we were just talking about, and that is the person's actual email address.
Oh
So
boy. Oh.
just a brief little like, okay,
Sexy
so
bitch 69 at
yeah,
Gmail. No,
yeah.
I'm kidding.
So
Somebody's gonna
this
email that person right now.
yeah, something similar to this happened to me on PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Years ago, PlayStation, you were not allowed to change your online gamer tag, is what they call it. So when I first started it, I wasn't into online gaming. I didn't know anything about it. So my name was TFLLC. That was when I was really promoting
The
Trinity
Pelic.
Fitness. Yeah, Trinity Fitness LLC. And that was what was happening. Every time they would try, I would play with new people. They would couldn't pronounce it. Drove me nuts, and I couldn't change it at all until recently. Well, I see that with emails a lot. I'll have people who will maybe not if they email me, I might not notice it because it might just say their name or I just reply. But if you're trying to tell somebody your email address, or if you're filling out a form and you got to put your email address, yeah, you might not. If you're an adult and you're trying to be taken seriously and you're trying to move up in the business world or create contacts and you're trying to kind of be looked at in a respectful manner, you might not want to have sexy bitch 69 at Hotmail as your email. And once again, if that's somebody's email address, hey, it is what it is. We just made that one up, but I'm sure somebody owns it.
Oh, somebody
Um,
owns it.
yeah. The point is if you're an adult, you should probably work on getting an adult email address. I mean, it's literally free.
Yeah.
You can sign up wherever you
Well,
want at all times. Um,
well,
be aware of that. Like if you're trying to fill out for a job, they don't want to have like, I don't know, constantly drunk at gmail.com. They, you might want to look into that.
I get it all the time, Trinity. We
It's
all know
crazy.
one of my emails is the dope doctor at Gmail. It happens all the time, brother. I
Yeah,
always have to explain it because I'll get one or two responses, and,
yeah,
and that's who I am. I'm the dope doctor, so I'll say the dope doctor at Gmail, and so some people go like, not asking, and some people go, oh, that's cool. Like
yeah.
it
It's
depends
mixed
on the
reviews for
side,
sure.
but it always I help people get clean and sober. I always got to just say it right out because I
Yeah,
don't know what interpretation is happening, but they cannot hear that email without having some sort of thing formulate within their mind. What's
yeah,
even funnier is when my wife has to give it. That's even funnier because I watch her do the same thing. She'll go, "Oh, my husband actually helps people," and she'll go on to a whole
yeah,
15-minute thing when all they really wanted was my email, man. But
yeah,
she feels compelled to give them a 15-minute
yeah,
soliloquy of who and what I am.
yeah.
And Orange County at the beginning, Orange County couldn't even accept my emails
Wow.
because there was a filter apparently that they had that would
Right,
consider that wrong. I guess at some point. So
right.
I have others. I have other emails that
Nice.
I use with the counties.
Sure, sure. And Enrique, he commented a couple more. He said, seriously, though, remarkably interesting conversation. Thank you guys, especially the emoji communication. For
Yeah.
example, the emojis of a person sitting down and a thumbs up. It could say sitting down is good, or just sit on your thumb, dummy. That's a problem. And then he said, Dope Doctor was the only reason that I wanted to meet you back in the days. Wow.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah, so
That's
that
it.
it can come off either way, but you just got to be aware of that, right? Like
Right.
like with my visible tattoos,
Yeah.
it has opened many opportunities for me in my life, but it's also shut many doors in my life.
Yeah. Mine
And so
too.
the same thing with your email address and how you deal with people and how you communicate. The way you present yourself is going to open a ton of doors, but it's
Right.
also going to close some other ones, and you got to be
Yeah.
aware of that and know that. So, anyways, he said naturally he was disappointed.
Hey, get on him for misspelling that. You misspelled disappointed, Enrique. So see, you know what?
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
gonna.
Yeah,
I'm
you
disappointed that
misspelled
you
disappointed.
misspelled that. Yeah, you go
Anyways,
ahead and be disappointed, Enrique. Be disappointed.
yeah, I don't even know what that is. Anyways, you got any final words on communication or one-on-one and how it relates to emails?
I, I'll go back to know your audience. Listen, you know, the knowing your audience to me is the most important thing. If you're going to send an email to anybody and there's somebody that you're trying to build a business relationship with, regardless of how they're talking to you, stay business back at them. If this is somebody that's personal, then the only recommendation on that point is that be careful what you send them, because know that everything you write, put in words or in picture form, can be saved, kept, or sent to somebody else. So just be sure that you're ready to always stand behind what you write. It's almost it's look, it's not a he said she said thing when you can visibly see what you said. So if you don't want it used against you, then don't put it in writing. Period. Anyway, that's it for me.
Yeah, well put, man. I'd agree with that 100%. So before I get into the tips for the day, just want to remind everybody that, as always, you can follow us on social media. He is at The Dope Doctor, and I am at The Dharma Guy. You can follow us at WPSN99 or at Now Matters More. That's the foundation in which he's the founder and the president. We help individuals with drug and alcohol addiction. You can also reach out at 833 Now Matters. That's 833 Now Matters. Or you can go to nowmattersmore.org and you can look at who we are, fill out an application, or you can mash that donate button. But having said that, let me go ahead and just get to the tips today. I got 3 tips for us, as usual, so I kind of break things down for you guys. First one I got is email to. It can be such a great tool. It's a fantastic communication tool. It literally brings people from all different continents and cultures together. You can instantly communicate, message somebody from a different continent or whatever, or you can reply to somebody at all hours of the day at your convenience, and you can send attachments and pictures and documents. It's a fantastic way of doing it. So don't be afraid of it. Don't shy away from it. Utilize it to the best of its ability. However, my second tip is understand that there is a plethora of nuances involved in emailing. As he pointed out, there's business, there's professional, there's emojis or non-emojis, there's spelling, there's grammar, there's tone, there's verbiage. You know, there's so many things that go into an email that, as he pointed out, is know your audience. Understand what you're trying to accomplish with this, and is that what is being put out there? And then also understand and remember what you do as far as the audience even. It's going to open some doors and shut other ones. You know, don't allow that to affect your inner peace or how you're viewing the world or how you're responding because you're being misinterpreted through an email. Instead, just understand that you could be misinterpreted and try to adjust accordingly. And then the last one I have here is absolutely realize, and I just touched on it, realize that emails can be both personal or business. You know, in a personal email, there's a lot of different rules. There's the timing of it doesn't really matter. The content doesn't as much matter. The professionalism of it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a free-for-all, but it can still be used against you, so just be aware of that. And then you got the professional. That is absolutely going to be used against you or used you know, to prove or disprove or whatever it may be. It is a professional. If you're trying to build a professional relationship with that person, they're going to expect it to be professional. So conduct yourself as if you would if you're sitting there talking to somebody in real life in a professional manner. And I think if you apply these things, if you're aware of them, your communication when it comes through email anyways, I think will be a lot better utilized. And you'll find yourself being less frequently misinterpreted and less frequently misinterpreting others. So thank you guys for tuning in. But once again, check us out on youtube.com/Dharma Time. You can find all of our old shows. You can find last week's show, which was number 1 of the communication series, talking about texting. Today was about email. And then be sure to tune in next week for part 3 of our communication one. But that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.